Hello, hello. We've got an amazing topic today, and it's a new one. Hold on to your hats, your seats, your whatever you need to hold on to, because we are talking about libido today. If you have issues with libido, if you want to build your libido, if you want to learn more about libido and a lot of other things, I have Dr. Jessie Hehmeyer in the house. Hello, Dr. Jessie.
Thank you so much, Junie. Hello. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and your community.
Thank you for being here. I said your last name right, right?
You totally got it great. Perfect. Right.
Good. Because I know we did this before and I'm like, did I say it right?
It's a tricky one. That second H in there, it like throws everyone for a loop. Yeah.
It's like Hehmeyer.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Anyway, I am thrilled to have you on the show. I want to let everybody know what your background is so they are ready to take their notebooks out, take your notebooks out, and get ready for a beautiful ride of learning and expanding your knowledge with Dr. Jessie. She is the physician founder of Well Empowered, where she practices data-driven, heart-centered functional medicine. She created Well Empowered with one commitment in mind, guiding you in creating the health and vitality that transforms your experience of life and alters what is possible for you. Like right there, alters what is possible for you. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay, so we're talking about libido. We're talking about vitality, and even just the concept of surviving versus thriving. You've mentioned that before. So let's just dive in and talk about what is vitality in your world. What does that even mean? And connect the dots when it comes to vitality signs in our health and libido.
Yeah, well, let's just start by saying that in a more traditional sense, what people talk about in the world of health is maybe only just the absence of disease, right? And I think you and I agree, Junie, that's a like, okay, yes, certainly we want that, but we want a lot more than that, right? We want to thrive. We want to experience vitality. And what is vitality? Vitality is physical and mental vigor, right? Like a real sense of aliveness
Yeah.
that we're moving throughout the world with. And, I came up with the idea of vitality sign a little bit to complement what we already know of as vital signs. So, vital signs, these are important metrics like your blood pressure and your respiration rate and your heart rate. All of these things fundamentally help us understand if you are safe right now, right? Like right now, are you safe? And if not, what do we need to do about it, right? And of course, those are important, but in service of thriving, we can start to look at what I call vitality signs. And, you mentioned one of the key vitality signs we're going to be talking about together today is libido, right? Our sex drive is okay. Yeah, we don't need a healthy sex drive to stay alive, but I think we all would agree that a decent sex drive is part of feeling like we're thriving, is part of feeling that physical and mental vigor.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. And I'm really glad you mentioned the distinction. Yeah, absence of disease, just being fine. Like the blood work looks fine. You're feeling fine. Fine is fine. Fine is fine.
Yeah.
But I'm always
Mm-hmm.
saying to the women that follow me around the second half of life, it's like, fine is fine, but don't you want to feel that exuberance? Don't you want to feel that aliveness? I love that you use that word as well, because life is meant to, in my opinion, to be an adventure, and to be able to take advantage of that and to feel that aliveness just adds like so much more to this experience versus just getting
Making
through.
it. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I don't know, are you familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work at all?
A little bit. A little bit. Mm-hmm.
So I'm deep into his work, and he's always talking about, and I'm certainly not going to do it justice, and we're here to hear from you. I will just want offer to say that, he says if the last thing our body's going to do is feel that sexual energy or produce a human being if everything else is stressed, if we're not in alignment, if we're not in our hearts and feeling that connection to our aliveness, so to speak. And so it is it's a clue. There's a clue there. If we're not feeling the juices flowing and our body desiring, that there might be something off. Would you agree from your perspective?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this goes well beyond just, what we would think about in the way of kind of like the idea of aliveness. It really goes into uh, physiology, right? And the truth is, our bodies, first of all, let's just say they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And our bodies are designed to always prioritize staying alive. Right. The
Exactly.
number one
Survival.
thing. Yes, exactly. Physiologically, we will always prioritize survival when the biochemistry needs to make a choice, so to speak. Right.
Yeah.
And so our body's always going to, in times of stress, just to your point, all of our resources are going to be funneled towards making it through that time of stress. And I'll say something else about stress in a moment. It's going to be funneled away from the fun stuff. It's going to be funneled away from those vitality signs, right? We're talking about libido right now, but you had asked me initially, what are some other vitality signs? Other
Yeah.
vitality signs are your skin and your hair and your nails. All of these things, your libido, your skin, your hair and your nails, you don't need any of them to be fabulous to stay alive. Now, we all want them to be fabulous to be alive, right? To really be enlivened, but they're not essential to the physiological processes that keep us here right now, right?
Yeah.
So when your body is forced to prioritize, it's going to prioritize everything that keeps you alive over these accessories, right?
Yes. Yes.
These things that we don't need, but we certainly do very much want.
Yeah, I love that. I use the analogy sometimes if you could be having the most amazing sex of your life, but if the house is burning down, you're not going to say, "Oh, just whatever, let's not pay attention to the house burning down. This is amazing." No, you're going to get out of the friggin' house,
Yeah.
So there are clues, let's use that metaphor. There are clues of, I smell some smoke, or, it's getting a
Yes.
little hot in here. And so I'm hearing from you that there are lots of little clues in your body, like your nails, your skin, and things like that, that are saying something might be off. And so I'm wondering, as women are getting older and menopause and things are changing in our body, is that just inevitable that these things are going to happen and your libido is going to drop, the hormone stuff, and we are just at the mercy of we're getting older? What's your perspective on that?
So my perspective on that is that it is physiologically appropriate for libido to be higher at certain points of our lives than others.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean our libido is absent at any point in our life, right? So yeah, when we're at a stage where, biologically speaking, we're designed to procreate, it would be appropriate to expect a libido to be higher, right? When we're postmenopausal, it would be appropriate to expect it to be lower, but not absent, right? So that's all, if it's absent, that is a sign that your body is telling you something is out of balance, something is amiss.
So that's where it gets tricky for me, which is okay. So I'm postmenopausal. My
Yes.
libido is definitely lower. I'm not in a relationship. So there's different moving parts here. So I know that if there's someone in my life, my libido raises because I'm getting more excited and I can't wait to be with them. And yet there's also the absence of relationship, which a lot of women here are not in partnership. And for me, again, I've noticed, years ago, the energy would be rising, and I would, solo play, self pleasure multiple
Mm-hmm.
times a week, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
noticing it's significantly less. And so I can say to myself, well, I'm postmenopausal. It makes sense. How does it fit in this conversation around boosting libido, being, accepting that this is just the way it is? If you want to have it, like I miss having that more of that desire, that excitement, that versus I'd rather take a walk outside and sit under a tree than spend time. It's like I'm curious, what's your take on the second half of life and where we're at with that?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, you touched on a few really great things there, Junie. One is, our libido doesn't live in a bubble, right? It does live in our relationships. And do we have someone who's getting us excited, right? There is something to that. But then beyond that, even if you can look at the past, okay, there was a past where I wasn't in a relationship, but I was still very interested in self-pleasuring. Wonderful. Right, versus where I am right now, then I think it would be worth doing a little bit of looking around and seeing if some of the more common causes of a diminished libido, if there's anything there that you could address that would perhaps give you, support your libido in a way that allows you to feel that kind of that aliveness and juiciness that you're interested in experiencing anew.
Quick interruption, and then we'll get right back to the show. There is something time sensitive. There is a contest going on, and there's one lucky prize winner to win the Relationship Toolkit program. This is a 5-week program with me guiding you to help you really stand your ground and have healthy boundaries, to be able to speak your truth and trust your gut, to have good, solid self-esteem, and to learn what the healthy relationship that you desire looks like. You learn to rewrite your love story and so much more. So there'll be one winner. There's some really juicy second place prizes as well. So you're going to want to click the link in the show notes for enter the contest, and be sure to put your correct email address and your phone number so I can reach out to you and let you know if you're the winner. Good luck.
And we're definitely going to talk about that. I really want to ask you some questions about what else we might do. Before we go there, I'm curious about some of the causes that you've seen for low libido, because I know you have 5 commonly overlooked causes. What are these?
Yeah. So I'll speak about them from a high level, and then we'll go through each of them in a little more detail. But from a high level, the 5 most common causes are adrenal fatigue, nutrient deficiencies, increased inflammation, compromised hormone sensitivity, and then what I would say is unhealed wounds, right? Like unhealed emotional wounds. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are all 5 heavy hitters, boy.
Yes. Right. And there's interplay between them, right? It's like, there's definitely some connection between all of them.
Oh my gosh.
To start
absolutely.
with that, to start with that first one, the adrenal fatigue situation. Yeah. And to tell the story, we started talking a little bit about stress, right? Our adrenals produce our primary stress hormone, cortisol. Right. And again, that cortisol is part of that fight or flight response that we actually really need cortisol to be alive. Like there's no being alive without cortisol. Right. So
the lion is chasing you, and you need to have that pumping so you can run, and you're going to be feeling that stress.
You got it. Well, the thing about that is both of our sex hormones, all of our sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all of them, all the variations of estrogen, and cortisol, they are all made of the same basic ingredient. So it's a little bit like, and that basic ingredient, by the way, is cholesterol. So cholesterol is to cortisol and your sex hormones as eggs are to an omelet and quiche. Right? There's no making an omelet or quiche without eggs. There's no making your cortisol and sex hormones without cholesterol, right? So over time, in a state of stress, and oftentimes we think about stress as being psychological, which certainly that is absolutely a form of stress, but stress is also physiological, right? So I actually have a blog on this, how people can be physiologically stressed and not feel stressed, right? And so those stressors can ultimately lead to a position where your body is having to quote unquote make a choice, and is going to funnel all those, it's going to take all those eggs to make the omelet over the quiche, basically, right? It only has a limited amount of eggs, right? So it's going to take all that cholesterol and funnel it towards the production of cortisol, simply because your body is demanding so much of it.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be at the cost of your sex hormones. So that's one. And, when we're looking into this, I really, you shared at the beginning, I take a data-driven approach, which is really true, right? We don't guess about these things. We actually do labs, because as we've been discussing, there can be many different sources, many different root causes of the same symptom. And oftentimes it's a combination.
All right. Before you go on to the next one, I want to ask you about cholesterol, because some people might be thinking, but I thought cholesterol was bad and I need to get rid of my cholesterol, and I don't eat eggs because of cholesterol. And there's a lot of misinformation about cholesterol. And here you are saying we need cholesterol. Can you just take a couple of minutes and just share about cholesterol?
Yeah. Well, so cholesterol, yes, in my experience, right? Cholesterol, yes, it is actually a very important metric in the way of our heart health. I know there are some people out there saying it's not. I haven't yet found that to be true. So and also, given that it plays so many different roles, so far I haven't found evidence that lower is always better. Right. So we want our cholesterol to be in ranges that reflect heart health, but it's not always true that lower is better. That has its own set of consequences. So including possibly taking a hit to libido, for example. I remember when I was a brand new practitioner, I was working with this gentleman, and one of his complaints was low libido, and he was on a statin cholesterol medication. And we did his labs, and his cholesterol was like double digits, super low. I was like, I think we found the cause.
Wow.
And so, we sent him back to his prescribing physician and said, like, hey, I don't think he needs this anymore. And fortunately, his prescribing physician was on board. And, anyway, it's just to say, to your point, cholesterol, it's a little bit of a Goldilocks thing, right? We don't, there is an upper limit that is going to point to problems, but there's also a lower limit that's going to point to problems.
So good. Thank you. So what's the second commonly overlooked cause?
So the next one I would say is nutrient insufficiencies or deficiencies.
That's such a huge one, and so overlooked, so overlooked.
Absolutely. We need these nutrients again to tie back into the adrenal. Some of it is just simply put, we need it to support the conversion of our cholesterol into both cortisol as well as our sex hormones. So if we don't have enough nutrients, it's all going to go towards the cortisol. We're going to have nothing left over for those sex hormones, right? So some of it is that, and then some of it is just the actual creation of our sex hormones and how they function, the way our receptors function. So a lot of different things we could say about that. Our neurotransmitters, right, which obviously is going to affect our mood, and whether we're feeling excited or not. So definitely those nutrient insufficiencies and deficiencies. And deficiencies are out of lab normal range, which in my experience is far from optimal. So by the time someone has some of these nutrient deficiencies, whether we're talking about magnesium or zinc or B12 or folate or omegas or vitamin D, whatever the case may be, they're really, they are like in physiological debt in a major way. If they're on the red end of that,
Well, it's like being thirsty. They say if you're really thirsty, you are deep into dehydration, versus just staying hydrated. And even when people eat well, the food quality, we know that. And this is another whole topic. I just want to throw in here that gut health is so important, because you could be eating pretty well in whole foods, but if your gut health isn't good, you're not even absorbing it. Your body's not processing it. And that's why I just want to put a plug in for you as a functional doctor, functional medicine, getting to the root cause of what this is, because you might be doing a lot of the things right, and it's still not producing the results that are optimal, because there are these missing pieces that mainstream medicine just is not on top of. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, you were so spot on pointing out the role that our gut health plays in our nutrient absorption and what we have available. And I would even add to that, we all have our genetics that need to be cared for in a unique way,
Yeah.
right? I was actually caring for a fellow practitioner, and she's taking B12. And I was like, and she did some of the labs I wanted her to do, but not all of them. I was like, we need to test this other number because you're taking the B12, but I bet the bank it's not enough for your body, not
Right.
enough for what your body needs. And oftentimes that's the case. There are common genetic mutations that lead to people, whether it's the B vitamins or zinc or vitamin D, they just fundamentally, their body needs a higher dose to reach the level that lets everything work at its best.
I think that's so important what you said, that it's not one size fits all.
Mhm.
Every body has their own unique expression and their own wiring and their own disposition. And that's why it's so important to spend some time with someone like yourself to really pull back the curtains and go, what's going on? We need to tweak this. You need more of this, less of this, and find that balance. Because it's not just, oh, take this pill and your libido will come back.
Yes, absolutely. I like the saying. I heard it somewhere. I wish I could claim that I came up with it, but it's something like, "You're unique, just like everybody else." Right?
Yep.
But it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the next one?
Yeah. So the next one is increased inflammation. So oftentimes, increased inflammation, to say a little bit more about inflammation, oftentimes people will come to me and, our virtual first appointment, and they'll say, I feel really inflamed. And I'll ask them, okay, how's that showing up in your body? And they might say, my skin is red, or I'm bloated, or my joints hurt, or whatever it is. And while it's true, those might be symptoms of inflammation, more often than not, inflammation doesn't have any symptom, right? It's actually elevated and interfering with all these physiological processes, but maybe people are at the very least really struggling to pinpoint that it's inflammation that's one of the key causes, for example, of low libido. So it's a measurable, knowable number, right? When I measure inflammation, there are a number of different things we could test. The two things I most commonly test are called HSCRP, for those who like the acronyms broken down. That stands for high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And then another one called homocysteine. So these two together, and there might be others I throw in there depending on the person, but these are common go-tos that really give us a very good high-level picture of long-term chronic inflammation. That's what we're really talking about. And the thing with that elevated inflammation is it interferes with the message of our hormones. So for all of our hormones to work, it's a bit like a ball and a mitt. We need to produce the hormone, the ball, and we need to receive the message of the hormone, the mitt. And so the inflammation is going to really get in the way of that message being received.
Wow. This could be a whole topic on its own, but again, share a little bit about what causes inflammation. I'm sure we can talk for hours on that one.
Truly. So yeah, it can be a number of different things. So detoxification pathways, if they're overloaded. And okay, what could that be caused by? Well, it could be caused by, okay, well, I've been drinking a little bit more than usual. Okay, that's one possible reason. It could be, sometimes I work with people who are necessarily on medication, for example, to support the remission of an autoimmune disease. And sometimes that can clog up the detox pathways, and we can still address it without, them having to get off the meds. We just need to give it a little more support. Also things like disruption of the microbiome, chronic infections. These are some of the things. Certain nutrients in particular, like low omega-3 fatty acids, that are super anti-inflammatory. So when they're out of whack, it can definitely, let that flame catch a little momentum, so to speak. So those are some common causes of elevated inflammation.
Thank you. Good stuff.
Yeah.
What's another underlooked cause.
So yeah, the next one would be compromised insulin sensitivity.
Yes.
And, sometimes that's present without someone being pre-diabetic or diabetic, right? So there's pre-diabetes and diabetes where certainly that's going to go, that a part of that is compromised insulin sensitivity. But sometimes people have compromised insulin sensitivity without being pre-diabetic or diabetic. So to say a little bit more about that, your insulin is a hormone that does quite a number of things, but when it's elevated, when your body's not receiving the message as well as it ought to be, as we'd like it to be, it is going to interfere with your the hormonal messaging. It's going to interfere with your actual nerve function. So there's just a lot of different layers and ways that insulin can interfere with libido that can get a little granular. But I would also say another aspect of that is it is a common stressor. When we go back to that number one being adrenals, it's a common stressor. If insulin sensitivity is compromised, it's going to be putting so much more stress on your adrenals. So in that case, I'm definitely going to be looking at both of those side by side and working to heal, support in elevated insulin sensitivity as well as your adrenals.
So much information, so amazing. Before we get to the fifth one, which in my opinion, which is my wheelhouse about emotions and past traumas and things like that. I think the fifth one actually, and we'll talk about this, influences all the ones that are previous. The ones we just spoke about, I'm just hearing menopause. I'm hearing, the hormones have changed. And so low estrogen, inflammation, the adrenal fatigue, all the overworking, all the doing, getting older. I mean, there's just so many pieces to menopause just alone. I'm curious, and again, this is a huge topic, but maybe a couple of sentences, HRT to undo a lot of what this is. What's your take on that?
It can be helpful. It can definitely be helpful. For anyone, they want to be clear on, okay, what is it they're looking to get out of the HRT? And then they want to work with someone who is skilled at assessing risks and ensuring appropriate delivery,
Yep.
Things like that. But HRT can definitely be helpful.
Yeah.
It does have its place in this conversation for sure.
Yeah. And again, it's a huge topic and it's coming up more and more around, well, there's more information out there and way more that we need around HRT, hormone replacement therapy. For those of you that may not know the letters, there's even new letters that people say, but ultimately hormone replacement. And some more will be revealed around that. And you said how it's administered and, the combinations. There's a lot of moving parts there as well to really do the testing and to really know safety and again, your body. So I wanted to throw that into the mix of this conversation. All right. The fifth one. Go for it, sister.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, like you said, unhealed wounds. It's a biggie, right? If we are not, we women, we do like to feel emotionally connected to both ourselves and to others, with others if we're going to be intimate with someone else, but with ourselves if we're going to self-pleasure, right? So really having that sense of safety, and if there's something that's absent there, or people are in some way, shape, or form suppressing emotions, and so it's showing up in depression, then that really will be an important thing to address, to have everything come together and experience that libido you're looking for. And I know you do great work on that end, and there's so much more we could say on the topic.
Yeah. And I'll just add that if we're dealing with unresolved issues that give us, I'm not worthy, low self-esteem, not comfortable in our bodies, feeling badly about how we look, body shame, all of those things, how on earth are we going to be open to receive, to have that energy flowing? This, even just that one piece of body shame, which we have been inundated with messages around what beauty looks like and what's acceptable and all that. You become, if you're in a partnership or you're wanting to be intimate with another, that's going to be really friggin' stressful if inside of you you're afraid that you're going to be rejected, or you're not beautiful or lovable. And the same thing goes for self-pleasure. If you're not connected to your body and you have old beliefs and messages that have you feeling ugly or unable to receive, it just makes sense that what's behind the scenes is going to affect your chemistry, affect your desire, and all of the things that you've shared. I think it's just one big friggin' puzzle that we need to look at. And that's one of the things I love about your work is you're looking at the whole puzzle. You're doing the work, you're asking the questions, and you're kind of going, oh, there's that piece. What do we need to do about that? But it's not just, and I'm on my high horse here right now, which is mainstream medicine. It's like, okay, you have low libido, here's a pill, here's one supplement, versus, and that's not to say all medicine, thankfully we have the medicine we have, and there's so much more that we can be doing around this. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think you really summed it all up beautifully. And I do see this work like putting a puzzle together, right? It is, I tell people when we engage in working together, I'm going to arrive with my detective's hat on, right? And I'm looking for, okay, what puzzle pieces do we have? What puzzle pieces are we missing? And, when we get those puzzle pieces eventually are going to be some labs. And I know for me, when I get people's lab results in, I'm like a kid before Christmas. I get so excited because it's solving a puzzle. It's another puzzle piece that goes in there, and it all starts to come together. And like we've been talking about today, the same symptom can have many different root causes. And so beginning to understand what's at the source of symptoms and conundrums for your body, and getting empowered with the information, what's going on and also what to do about it, that opens up a whole new world.
Yeah. So if there was one tip that you can give to this woman right now to help her with libido, to get her started, is there one thing, one step that, because it sounds, it's, as you're sharing, I love that, the analogy of the detective. There's a lot of detective work. There's a lot of testing. There's a lot of who are you and moving parts of what's going on. So here's this woman hearing you. What might be one thing she can do right now?
Yeah. So I'm going to invite you, the listener, to consider for yourself in the world of physiological stressors, right? Things that are causing stress. And these may be things, again, like you experience the stress, or you just know they're a stressor on your body. This could be something like the amount of sleep you're getting, the amount of time and restoration and self-nourishment, like self-nourishment in a way that really makes you feel proud of yourself. Right? That could be something. It could be the way you're fueling your body, and that could be what you're doing or not doing. And it could be the way you're moving or exercising, right? So any one of these represents a great opportunity. So my invitation for you, the listener, is to come up with one of these many different areas, one area, and be as specific as possible, right? As you're listening, you're going, oh my goodness, my sleep. I'm like online scrolling way too late, like whatever it is, right? Great. Is that the place you're willing to start? And then start to look at, okay, what would be a better game you could play? Please, please, please give up all hope of a perfect game.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Because that's just going to up your cortisol and stress you out even more. It's like, oh my God, I've got to do all of these things right now.
Truly. And, so maybe in that example of like, okay, I can see that the amount of sleep I'm getting is not a good fit for the vitality I intend, right? Then you might say, okay, I'm typically head on the pillow, lights out at 11. I'm going to start with 10:30. And to start with 10:30, that means I'm going to plug my phone in at 9:45. I'm just making that up, right? But, get clear for yourself on what it would look like for you to win. You get to say what it would look like for you to win. And again, just like Junie and I are saying, like, please baby step it. Please baby step it, because we want you to win the game you're playing. And just like a toddler learns how to walk one baby step at a time, we learn to honor our health and vitality from a place of self-love, one step at a time.
Definitely. I love, love, love that. One step at a time and being gentle with yourself. It's like deciding you want to change your body, you join the gym, and then you go to the gym and you spend 5 hours working every possible muscle you can in the first time. And then the next 2 days, you can't even walk because your muscles are so full of lactic acid. It's like, that's not how to do it. Slow and steady, and just pick one thing to move forward with. It just, so good. So good. Now, I know that you do health audits. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I know you also have a special opportunity for our listeners and watchers.
Yes. So when I work with people, when we begin our partnership, we start with what I call a health audit. And this health audit is working together for about a month and a half. And it includes lab work, and it includes getting clear on your intention for your health and your life, and guiding you in those first steps of your journey. So you really get tons of information. You begin to understand what's at the root of your health conundrums, your health symptoms, the challenges you're experiencing, and you start that journey. And, before that even begins, I should back up and say there's a complimentary consultation, because it's really important to me that it's a great fit. Right? It needs to feel like a great fit for both of us, because we are partners in this. And if you are interested, if this sounds like something that might be of use for you, please go to my website, schedule a complimentary consultation, but also make sure you let me know Junie sent you, because you will be gifted 10% off your health audit if you decide you'd like to proceed with that.
I love that. And there's something so important about having somebody guide you at the, when things are going on, I keep saying there's so many moving parts. I live this. I work with a functional doctor. I would have hired you, but I have somebody else right now. Who knows? The jury's still out. But I've been working with a functional doctor for years, looking at my labs, and it is detective work. And let's try this, and let's move this around. And all I can say is there are blind spots. There are things we don't know. I'm always learning and upping my game. And frankly, the biggest thing I'm working on right now is my sleep. I have the Aura ring. I am totally down with hacking my sleep. And that has been like the biggest life-changing thing for me. And so to have a guide, really, to have somebody in partnership with you. And so Jesse is here to help you with that. If there's one thing you got out of our interview, sister, please just do one thing. Keep it simple, but remember that there are lots of moving parts, and you deserve to have an extraordinary second half of life. This is not just about libido. Let's just call it as it is. Libido is just a piece of the puzzle as well of having an amazing life. And it's a juicy part of life. And if you're not in sync with this part, then there are other things that are at play. So I encourage everyone to just remember that you deserve to have the most extraordinary second half of life. And this is a big piece of the puzzle. Look for the clues of things being out of sync, and then, schedule a complimentary consultation with Dr. Jesse. Am I going to get that right? Anything else you want to add to that?
No, it's been such a pleasure being here with you, Junie, and your community. So thank you so much for welcoming me.
Oh, my pleasure. For everybody that's watching and listening, please like and subscribe to the channel. Put some comments below if you're watching the YouTube station. This is how we get to interact as well as grow when you like and subscribe. And then you don't miss any of these really great episodes. And just keep going. Just keep putting a stake in the ground for having the life that you desire, because you're worth it. And if there's even the slightest part of you that's questioning the worthiness of it, that is where I come in. You can grab a consultation with me, a love breakthrough session. That's in the show notes as well. Let's get you moving in the right direction, body, mind, and spirit, so you can really wake up loving your life. So that's it for today. Mwah!